What's up, guys? What's up, guys? I'm going live right now. I'm going to do a dual live interview here in the next couple minutes. So if you want to stay tuned, I'm going to have Dendo apparel coming on live here in the next couple minutes. And we'll get started with an interview that I've wanted to do in a long time. So if you can kind of see, I'm here in my office right now, where all the magic happens. So, yep, I'm going to go live here soon with Dendo. I'm just going to post up something, and then we will go live, and I'm going to do this interview. It's going to be pretty cool, so I'm pretty excited about it. What's up, Dan? I'm going to just hold on for a second, and you can request. I'm just typing something in. All right, guys. So, Dan, if you want to join in, you're welcome to do that right now, and then we can kind of get kind of situated and let some of your people join in, and then we can get started. So, I'm gonna get my tripod set up here. All right. I think it's.
What's up?
Yo, what's up, man?
What's up? How you doing? Have you been?
I've been good. I've been good. We'll give like maybe a couple minutes for some people to join in, but dude, I've been good, man. I'm here in my office right now. I got your one-off drawing right here, all framed up. I'm pretty excited about that.
That fires me up, man.
Dude, I so when I got it, I went to Michael's like the day it was coming, and I wanted to get um I wanted to get it framed and put it, in a frame right away. And so
Dude,
I was
thank
looking
you so
around,
much.
and I knew I kind of wanted like a white frame. And then I kind of like went, they had like a custom mat section where you can just buy like pre-cut mats or whatever. And I saw the double blue mat. And I was like, dude, that's perfect for it. And when I framed it, I was like, wow, it looks great.
It looks
So
amazing. Well, first of all, thank you. It's super flattering, but it looks bananas in there. You did
yeah,
it. Definitely did it justice. It looks awesome.
yeah. I was just on your website maybe a couple weeks ago, and I was like, man, I got to get one of his pieces, man. I mean, I love what you're doing, and dude, your following is ginormous. So it's
Thank you.
just crazy, and because a lot of people, I mean, I have like it, the following type stuff can get inflated. So like, I mean, I have like 10K followers, but like, I probably have like about 100 to 200 like diehard, following. That's like, just they look at everything, they like everything, so it's just hard to gauge based off of like these inflated numbers. But I mean, I look a lot at like comments, and I know every time you post, people are like, oh man, that's great, and they're inspired. So but yeah, how have things been for you?
Yeah, good. I mean, I feel like with everyone else these last 2 years, it's all been sort of a new world, right? um,
Yeah,
It's been, I can't complain though. Things have been good. Otherwise, health has been, no issues, which I think are the most important things, right? Like the
yeah,
fact that we can still do stuff like this, you and I can connect. Like
yeah,
it's, we have an ongoing, my wife and I have an ongoing like weekly call that has been going on since the start of the pandemic with really close friends of ours out in Oregon. And it's like one of those things where like we haven't, we're closer now, I feel like, as close, if not closer than when I lived out there years ago. But like, it's good and bad. So you got to take some of that stuff in stride and, look for those moments and yeah, do stuff like this. I mean, it's been so long. I know we keep up on Instagram, but like to do this, it's awesome. It's great to see you. It's great to talk to you. I mean,
yeah.
it's been years, dude.
Yeah, I know, man. And I will. So for those of you who don't know, Dan and I both went to RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology. And I met Dan he lived right next to me on what was it, Gleason 4, Gleason 5,
Yeah.
and so in Rochester, New York, and you know, we kind of interacted a few times. We hung out, you know, we did some different things. I think one time we might have went to a party or something. So, but you know, I was blown away by your work, and you were a year ahead of me. So I graduated in 2008. You were '07.
Yep.
And I just remember I originally started in graphic design. And I mean, I didn't really like, I knew I liked art, but I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to get into going to college. But I knew, like, I was like, all right, graphic design, it sounds more like, you know, a viable future for, you know, for a job, you know, something that, you know, I could, you know, I said like computers, oh, they're the future or whatever. So, I mean, and we were just getting into it with YouTube, Facebook. I mean, all these things just started popping up. And I mean, I was blown away. You know, I'm kind of a nerdy guy, but I mean, our floor, had all dudes, and these guys had, and this is in 2004 or 5, and we had high speed internet. I mean, I grew up on dial up, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, holy shit! Like, you know, we got the cables coming out, and I was like, this is incredible. And you know, people were playing World of Warcraft, and I was just like, man, this is unbelievable. You know, with the dual screen setups, and here I am with a laptop, Dell laptop from my grandmother that like was from 1998, and it could barely, but it did, you know, what I needed. And we had so many computer labs on campus, you know, it didn't matter. But yeah, where I'm getting at is I remember going into your room a few times and looking at some of your work, and I remember you made this. I think it was like a carp or a fish with paper scales.
Yeah.
And that, I don't know if you still have that, but I remember just seeing that. I was like, wow, man, I think I want to do what this guy's doing. And I think you started off in what, illustration, and then
I
switched to.
did. Yeah, it's funny. I actually found myself at RIT because I thought I was going to be an animator. And growing up, I mean, I think the 1985 Transformers movie was probably, if you look at like grounding moments in your life, like that one to me there was just something about that movie. I think the fact that it was like my first time I've ever seen like a Japanese animation, and
Mm-hmm.
the way that it was drawn, the attention to the details. And then like as I got older, obviously I got really nerded out back to kind of what you were saying. Like I wish I had the appreciation in college that I do now for a lot of the things that you had
Yeah.
just. But like even now back to that Transformers movie, is like I didn't realize how many amazing voice actors were in there too, that really like are so like, they were very formative with like, you know, just who I am and what I am. Anyway, that's a very long-winded way of me saying like I was going to go to school for animation, and you know, Paul, because you went to the school yourself, but Rochester is near Kodak and Xerox. So it is a very big, you know, in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, a big film school.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought for sure I was going to get into film and animation. That's what drew me there. And right before I came in, I actually met with a professor, Bob Dorsey, who was the head of the illustration department. And he talked to me about illustration, and I was like, yeah, this sounds amazing. And at that time it was like, I mean, you mentioned we went to school in like the early 2000s, so that was around the time when, you know, Pixar was really coming into light. And again, a ton more appreciation for that and that technology now than I did at that time. But I really wanted to be a traditional animator, I think, because of, you know, what I grew up with, loving Disney movies, loving those,
Mm-hmm.
that Transformers movie, like I said. And I wasn't really interested in doing the 3D animation. Now that has 100% changed, you know, now in today's world. Like I'm super interested in that stuff, and I wish I had a little bit more of that skill set. But yeah, I mean, I pivoted over to illustration, much like you did, like you said, with graphic. And I think we both found our way in industrial design. And then you look at what we're doing now, and it's 100% different from where we even netted. And I think that just sort of speaks to design being very open-ended, right? Like if you care about your craft and what you do, and you're passionate about something, you're going to find a way to get there, right? And I'm an apparel designer now too. You've known that for a long time. I've worked with a number
Mm-hmm.
of companies. And obviously you're in the apparel and graphic world now too, which is super awesome. And I got to tell you, like, I am blown away. Like, you really took the bulls by the horns with Kicks, and like, dude, it's yours. Like, that is so amazing that it's your baby. It's your thing. Like,
Mhm.
you go that and pivot that and go sort of anywhere you want to go with it. And that to me is so awesome. You know, I
Yeah.
did go on a bit of a different trajectory, and I love my career path, don't get me wrong, but you know, my wife's father is an entrepreneur himself too, and like, I just have so much respect for anybody who builds something from the ground up like that. So
Yeah.
dude, major props to you. Like, you're killing it, man. I love seeing what you're doing, and yeah, I'm excited for where you're going to go in the future too. So, you know, keep at it,
Yeah, I
man.
appreciate it, and I mean, dude, I want to say though, you're part of the inspiration of why even, I mean, you inspired me to switch over to industrial design, and man, I mean, if you don't know, Dan was award-winning designer. Like, he won the IDSA Merit Award for all of design with all design colleges in 2007, and I mean, that's a big deal. Like, I
I,
mean, RIT has been known. I remember RIT had for a number of consecutive years winners, and that was like a big deal, and it still is. Like, and so to be able to say you're a part of that, I mean, I was never as good as you, and I probably never will be. Your hand sketching is crazy, and I mean, I've been able to figure out my skill set, but just there's just some people you can look at and see, and it's just like, wow, man, like, they're gonna do some crazy things and impact the world. And it's just been great to, I guess, know you and be able to, continue to follow your journey. And then, I interned at Reebok, which was a big thing for me in 2007, and which led to Kicks, actually, because I played some baseball in the men's league, and it actually led to the photo of me pitching, which is my profile picture, and I had a really high leg kick. And so when I saw that picture that my uncle took, and like, the dirt freaking sandlots of Boston, Brighton in Boston, it was crazy. And I was like, man, that's the perfect photo. I want my own like logo, like the Jordan. And so a lot of what I did senior year was I put the logo on, like, I turned it into a graphic with Illustrator, and then I put it on business cards and different things. And yeah, it's just crazy. I think it really speaks to, then, if you have a good idea, then it's just building around it and building up a following and people that support you, and that's all you really need. Once you got that backing of people that support you, then it's just having fun with it and continually building. Look at Disney. I mean, look how that started. So, but yeah, man, I know you've been with Reebok, Nike, you've been back and forth, and now you're with Reebok. It's a crazy side
yep.
story off. I was actually in Boston for a couple days. My brother and I went down to meet up with a couple guys I used to play in these men's leagues with, and they started their own brewery in Harvard, Mass. And so, we wanted to go down and check out a couple places and meet up with these guys. And we ended up at Trillium
Yeah.
Brewery.
Yeah.
And so the newest Trillium, or one of them, is right at the old Reebok campus, which was crazy because
Is
I
it
pulled.
in?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's brand new. So like where I was with the baseball and equipment
Yeah.
department off to the side there, that's all like Trillium and some other office spaces in
Right.
there. But when I pulled in, I was like, man, I think I know where I am. I'm like, this is where I came to intern at Reebok. And lo and behold, there was the campus, and I drove around a little bit, so it was nostalgic for me. And but yeah, man, I mean, just getting back to it, like what you're doing just with Dendo, it's just crazy. And it's just your ability to dream up, these characters, which are very, Transformer, Pokemon, Mechamon type things. It's awesome. So
Thank you.
what I think I'll do right now is I'll get into the purpose of this, the interview questions, and then we can kind of chat a little bit at the end, and then if we want to open it up for some questions for people, because I think this is a great opportunity. I know I try to get on a little bit here and there and share things with Instagram, TV, and try to share my story. And I think it's important, and this is why I'm doing it. And I hope to do this more with artists because I think it's cool for people to kind of know like what the story is and where you're coming from. And I think it makes them, I guess, enjoy it even more and feel more connected. So, um,
Awesome.
and yeah, so I'm gonna get right into the questions right now
Cool.
that I sent you, and you can answer them however you uh, feel. The first one is tell me a little bit just about yourself and where you're from, like your dreams as a child, and how it kind of led to where you are right now.
Yeah, I mean, I love the fact that you and I know each other too. So like a lot of this is sort of are already organically come out, right?
Yeah.
But I grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania. Didn't really have a ton of like formal art training. Didn't know. Yeah, again, I mean, my art classes were in high school once a day for like 45 minutes, you know, and it was sort of like self-learning, you know, around the thing. I didn't have access like a big city has to like figure drawing and sketching and stuff like that. So when I got to an art school and a college, it was like, I mean, it was eye-opening, right? Like, I mean, you grew up in and around the Syracuse area, I know that, but like, I don't know if you had any access to a lot of that stuff, but like I got in there and I was just like, what the hell is this? Like,
Yeah.
it's so different. And it's like, I didn't understand what like a good critique was until I got into college. So I really had to get a better grasp around the things that I just didn't know that I didn't have access to.
Mm-hmm.
So my freshman year, like I really like landed in there. I mean, you know me from my sophomore year, but I think both of us were like, there were some sleepless nights there just trying to get, you know, my head wrapped around where I felt I should be from my ability standpoint. And I think, you know, you hit on this before, like we were lucky to be surrounded by so many amazing people and professors and peers that like we can bounce ideas off of and
Mm-hmm.
push each other with. And, you know, I look back at that time and that was really the most formative part of that. And I think again, I took for granted some of the things maybe that like and because RIT wasn't really a traditional art school. You alluded to this before. It really was an engineering college that had, you know, at that time, the art department, which is really well known now, but it was sort of still up and coming a little bit more, right? Like it was, and not to say that there weren't some amazing professors and people that did amazing things in their career there, but like I said, it was very much an engineering school and then a film animation school, and then the art department sat sort of connected but outside of there. But through, you know, I think we came in right at that sort of amazing pivot point where we got a lot of professors that had like 15, 20, 30 years of industry actual experience, and then those that were coming from a lot of those very art driven art schools like your RISDs or, you know, some of these other ones. I think one of our professors was from Pratt as well too. I can't remember if that's where Stan was from, but yeah, people that had worked in the industry, people that were entrepreneurs. So like we had a really good rounded professor base just in and of itself. And then I had mentioned Bob Dorsey before too, who is an amazing illustrator, but like, you know, he was a freelancer and he ran that department. And it's just so many, like, again, I think in those moments when you're younger, you do take some of those things for granted. But now I'm like, holy shit, that was like a really cool school to be part of.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that like I said, that was sort of the quick and dirty response to like, you know, where it was. But I had mentioned before, like I thought I was going to go into film and animation. It's something I love now too. My friends and people that are close, and obviously through the Instagram, I think, you know, I'm a pretty big nerd, like Pokemon, video games, Marvel
Yeah.
Universe, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles growing up. Like I'm an 80s and 90s kid with that stuff, you know, like I still gravitate towards those things. And, you know, I've been lucky enough to work with some brands recently too that have allowed me to, you know, dive back into some of those IPs and things that I just like. Again, I think, like you said, it's the networking, it's knowing people, it's getting back into there. And, you know, it's an amazing career. I've been so lucky and so happy to meet all of the people really throughout that time and
Yeah.
be able to work on that stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much my background.
I mean, I think technology has played a huge role as far as, I mean, I really like to look back and just say, like, you know, we've kind of grown up in the growth of technology, and we've seen it all from the dial-up phones to the, you know, the internet that was super slow to now the high-speed internet to Facebook to then Twitter, now Instagram, Snapchat, all TikTok, which I won't get into that. But I mean, there's all these things now, and it's really allowed, you know, it's allowed me and you to like start your own thing, and you can be anywhere. So I could be in Hawaii right now doing this, and it's freedom, really, what it's allowed. And I will always say this, you know, now is the best time to be alive. There's no excuse. There's no reason why people should be complaining right now. It's an amazing time. If you want to do something, you can go do it. And this is why I'm kind of sharing what you're doing, because it's a great example of, you know, you are working at Reebok, but you're also doing your own side thing with Dendo, and you're building that up, and the freedoms are just unbelievable. And it's the amount of people you can connect with, and at the click of a button, I can talk to someone in China or Russia or anywhere in literally seconds. It's unbelievable. So
I completely, that's like, you hit it on the head too. And we were coming up when social media wasn't, you know, really as prominent as it was, as it is now, not as it was now, as it is now. But like, yeah, I remember, you know, I had mentioned my friends from Portland outside, earlier in this video too, but one of my buddies was like, dude, you got to get on Instagram. And he pushed and he pushed and he pushed. And I was like, I don't know, like, it just was, it's not for me. It wasn't for that. But, you know, there's been a couple people that I can remember that have really been like, dude, get your fucking art online. Pardon my language, but like, that's really the truth of the matter, is like, it's a platform, it was the future. And I really appreciate them pushing that. And I didn't go in with any expectation, nor I think did you, but like, you put it out there, see what sort of sticks, and then, you know, just have some fun with it. So, and that's been like, I'm as surprised as you are. Every day I wake up and I look at that thing and I'm like, holy shit, I have this following. Like ridiculous drawings. That's really what they are. Like, but I have fun with them. You know, it's like the relaxing side. Like you said, it's the other component that I don't get to do necessarily on a day-to-day, which is very fulfilling from that perspective. And, you know, I have sort of slowed down a little bit over the last couple of years, but I want to pick that up. As like you said, like now is the time to, you know, really dive back in there and strike while the iron's hot. Like there is no reason to do that. And yeah, I mean, the exposure, like you're saying, to people that we had, like even when you and I were back in college, like we were lucky because it was an international school, so we got a little bit more rounding from that perspective. But the fact that, like, I mean, there's amazing YouTubers out there now that like you see these people and you're like, holy shit, this guy's killing it, and he's in the Philippines. Like this dude, right? I'm a huge Gundam fan. This guy makes custom Gundams, and he does like these beautiful cinematic Gundam builds, and essentially they're scratch building. He's using styrene PLA plates to like build up extra levels to him, make his own guns for him, and then he's got a beautiful airbrush technique. But then the whole video is just shot cinematically. But like you and I wouldn't get to see that, you know. I think they take that for granted. Like now we've got access to that stuff. Yeah. But like, I mean, I feel like those from an influence standpoint, and like who I'm looking at now too, like I'm so happy that we have that outlet, because those people that really do push me and like make me want to dive into stuff that like I haven't wanted to before, or like maybe I've stopped doing for a while, but now it's like, okay, I really want to do that again. So
so question number 2 here is why and when did you decide to start Dendo?
Yeah, I think, well, I had mentioned this before too, but like, you know, my buddy Jimmy was like, listen, you know, get your stuff on Instagram, get it on Instagram. And I'm like, okay, I'll get it on there. And I just started, well, Paul, you know me, but like my industrial design background and what I like to do, and I had mentioned Transformers before, my tendency is to draw robots. It's what I want to do. Like that was my freeing space. It doesn't mean that I don't like to draw other things at other points, but for me to sit down and do that, that's where my brain sort of automatically goes. So I wanted it to be this creative outlet of something that I just don't get to do often, right? So I just started it, and it really was about drawing robots. I had a couple of the drawings and stuff in the early days, and this was like 2014, I think, is when the page started. And then a well-known artist, Jake Parker, has a drawing prompt where, and you can find this on YouTube and on his page, but it's draw 100 of something, right? And I'm like, okay, it's a good challenge for me to sit down and do this. And I was drawing, these are the size of sketchbooks that I draw with now, so these are skins, but I drew on sort of the half-sized ones before too, and that kept me pretty honest as I was going through this Draw 100 prompt, and I
Oh,
think that
one of these.
yeah,
This was,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. OG fan right there.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That actually is the second drawing in the Draw of 100. So you
Okay,
got number 2 from that set.
nice.
Um, but that's really what sort of kicked it off. And again, that was no expectation. That was more of a Dan goes in and just starts drawing some stuff. And at that time, I was really looking into using brush pens and just
Yep.
different I wasn't comfortable with. So I dove into it, and then sort of organically, I don't know if I was just drawing and like I was doing a lot of these sort of like, I don't know, graphic graffiti-esque like prompts off to the side, just like fun, stupid little like emotions for the robots. And one of my signature things, and I always used to draw my arrows like this in industrial design class, but they have like a little
Yeah.
to them. So I threw that in the back end of a speech bubble, and I was like, oh, it looks pretty cool. Can I build something around this? And I didn't really start out with the Dendo brand, like thinking it was going to be anything. It was more akin to like a personal brand or kind of like a
Yep.
tag. And I was just drawing one day, and I was just thinking about how can I incorporate that lightning bolts a little bit more. And I did some research. I love Japan. I mean, I'm sure you can figure that out from like all my drawings and my influences and things that I've sort of grown up with. But I've been lucky enough to go over there, through work several times, and it's an amazing country. And, it's always something I've been interested in. But Dendo is really a play on the word for electric in Japanese. So what I wanted to do, like I said, I was looking for creative ways to sort of pull in the lightning bolt. So yeah, if you see that, like it's in there, it comes over the top of the O. And it was just like an easy little branding element that I jumped into. Like I said, no expectation outside of the fact that I was sort of looking to ground a drawing. Like if you had a Dan Bolinski drawing, what could be that sign off for it? And then it's sort
Yep.
of since then, right? Like I started doing a couple t-shirts here and there. I'm still experimenting with some. I did do some newer shirts during sort of the start of the pandemic, but supply chains and things like that were sort of slowing the process down a little bit more. But um, it just I think it just sort of organically grew, and I never really expected to land where I have it now. But that's sort of the beginning of what Dendo is. And yeah, I mean, I'm just sort of keeping it organic for now.
Cool. Yeah, so if anyone's joining in or has joined in comments, we'll go back and kind of look at those at the end. And then if you have questions, I'll leave it up to Dan to we'll look at those, and we'll look at the comments at the end. So but that's cool, man. And yeah, I mean, I feel like I got around on Instagram around 2012 to 2013, 14. And to be honest, man, I didn't have a smartphone until like 2014, 15. Because, dude, I was living on pennies, bro. And, like, I had a flip phone, and at that point, I just couldn't afford it, or I didn't think I could afford it. So, dude, I had my laptop running app simulators for Instagram on my laptop to run off Instagram, because this is where all my following, the kids, that's where they went. The parents got on Facebook, and that didn't become cool anymore. So that's where they went. And I've been working with this girl, and we were sending stuff out. We sent out stuff to Pete Davidson, these celebrities out in California. Dude, I mean, she was sending stuff out. I'm like, dude, I got to get on this. So eventually I did. And I feel like the peak of Instagram, I would say we're beyond the peak, I would say. I'd say the peak was around 2014 to 2017. Before we got now it's all spam. There's so much ads. It's just almost going to shit in a sense, like because there's just too much going on.
Yeah, we were talking about that today. A group of friends of ours, and we send each other memes all the time. But like these videos of like the guys who jam in root vegetables and like water things and then sealing them up with epoxy, like it's wild. It is literally like the Wild West of what's going on there.
Yeah, so it's just interesting, but I think we got on Instagram at the right time, and it's just been a great platform for artists, because it's allowed you to connect with people all over the world and monetize on it, make it into careers. So it's been a great platform. Now, hopefully they change it in some ways, or who knows if Instagram will be around here in the next. It will, but I feel like there's going to be something new that's going to come in, just because it's getting a little stale. And I think artists especially are getting a little PO'd, because they're like, my stuff's not getting seen, but it is what it is. Like if you have a following that cares, they'll make sure to follow you. So, but
I mean, I also think too, Paul, like especially for artists and those that are interested out there, I don't do a good enough job of this myself, so I'm certainly a hypocrite in this, but like really, if you're interested about growing this stuff, find yourself on multiple platforms, right? Like diversify who it is. If you're putting all your eggs in the basket of Instagram, which I certainly am right now, but like there is something to be said about like, how do you get onto YouTube in a more effective way? And I have a smaller following on there, but like, that's really like people care about this video content. That's the new frontier with that.
mm-hmm.
Maybe like at that, at least approaching, if not there, but like these quick videos on TikTok, you know, Snapchat obviously sort of has its ups and downs, and I have my own about that. Facebook, like you had mentioned before, has sort of, it's on that roller coaster down. It's not for the newer generation staying young and relevant, but like, you know, there's ArtStation that's out there, there's Behance, there's all of these other platforms, and to be relevant, you sort of do have to distro that stuff around there and you know, just be smart about it. But I think you're absolutely right. It's like, it's this platform is changing and there'll be something new coming out. And it's, I think just be flexible and know that you're smart. I mean, you're bringing it up. So like, it's know that content change is coming, and, you know, find people that are in that industry that know what's coming down the pipeline, you know, and probe that or try something out. I think that's sort of artists. That's the thing you have to do. You got to take some risks and chances on different platforms.
Now, the third question kind of was, it was tell me a little bit about what Dendo is, but I think you kind of got into that. So I'm going to kind of throw a curveball here. Now, I'm sure you've seen some, like, let's be real here. Like, I feel like, you know, I looked at Snapchat and I was like, this is crazy. You know, I can take a video, I can design a filter, and I can put it around a hockey game, and it'll get viewed thousands upon thousands of times, and I can put my logo in there, and I've used that, and I was like, man, this is the future of advertising. It's selective advertising, right? So it's creating something that people actually want to use, but it's also an ad. You know, generally when I see an ad on TV or YouTube, I'm like, swipe next, click skip. I don't want to see it. But with Snapchat, what they kind of did is they allowed you to, you know, create as an artist. I don't know if you've ever used it or anything, but I have filters, and you can submit them, and they're pretty inexpensive for airspace, and it's genius on Snapchat's, you know, from their standpoint. But now what we're also seeing is these NFTs, non-fungible, whatever. And where you can actually create artwork like what you have right here, but it's a digital sense. So I'm kind of curious on what your thoughts are on this whole thing. And, you know, do you, I know I'm kind of jumping forward here, but do you plan on maybe offering something kind of like that? Do you think you might be interested in doing like more custom pieces, that type of thing?
Yeah, it's NFTs, crypto, all of that stuff that's out there. It's an interesting world, right? Now, I'm saying that, and I'm playing the part of Sweden in this, or an area where it's very neutral, right? Because there's pluses and minuses for everything, right? I don't know enough about it to speak, I think, maybe as effectively as I should, but I do understand the draw of it, and I understand that it's something new and it's something that is desirable to people, because digital art is something that is still, in my opinion, it's viewed as a lesser version of an actual piece.
You're right.
You have an issue with that, because whether I draw something on an iPad or I draw something in real life, I'm still the artist. I'm still producing something, but why does it get devalued being in a digital realm, right? Like, I still put that in there, and you can make the argument that like paint and all these other things, it adds a level of texture, and having a physical thing is, I agree with that. Like, I do think having a physical thing is nice, and that's never going to go away, right? There's something about having an actual thing there that allows you to do that. But the interesting part is like, you're literally allowing this through an NFT. Again, I don't necessarily, I'm not as well rounded on like what the sort of ramifications of doing this or not doing this are, but I do like the idea of, why would you devalue something that an artist is still doing in the digital space, knowing that that's something that is going to be important moving forward, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you see Photoshop brushes and stuff, and I use this all the time, and I use Procreate, and I use a lot of other things, whether it be through a Cintiq or otherwise. But I even see this on my own account. This is a really good example. I did my last three pieces, are the most relevant ones on there. On the top of that are three anime pieces that I did, but they've all been done digitally. And I've watched my followers say we actually prefer like the piece that's behind you, the physical, show me the sketchbook, this is what I want, you know. But like why is the digital version devalued as much, even in like what the viewing population wants? Like I'm
Yeah.
still doing that. Like I created the halftone filters, I'm still doing the brush,
Yeah.
still doing all of that. The process is literally the same. It's just there's a digital and there's a physical. So I don't know. It's like I said, from that perspective, it's interesting because it's like for me too, even from a workflow process, it's faster.
Yeah.
Like I can sit down and bang out something on a Cintiq or bang out something on an
Oh
iPad,
yeah.
hit the print button, and I'm good to go. And you can even make the argument, maybe minus the energy consumption part, but like that's less resources, right?
Yeah.
That's things that are messing up the environment. I'm not burning through another marker shell. I'm not burning through another
Yeah.
piece of paper.
Yeah.
And I can like put this out there and you can have multiple copies of it. But it's this that lost in translation between the physical, the digital side of things that's really, I don't know. And I think the world needs to catch up, but I think it's, I don't know, it's back to like our Instagram, Snapchat, that whole conversation of like, where are we on that arc, you know? And
Yeah.
like, are museums in the future, and I think some of them are through modern, you know, things, but like,
Yeah.
when do NFTs and digital art really start to show up in a broader way in some of those other areas, right? Along with your Monets, Manets, all your Renaissance
Yeah.
paintings, things like that. Like, where in the world are they, you know, in that realm? And I don't know. We're just not there yet. So like,
Yeah.
it does bum me out. Although I do think this is artists being artists, right? They're finding creative ways to say no, this digital stuff is relevant.
Yeah.
But they are the first, and like the first of sort of any of this, even like blockchain and all the crypto that goes along with that, which is how you buy into these NFTs. It's still the Wild West. There's no, and I guess that's kind of the beauty of it and the whole point of it. It's that sort of like self-governing body. But yeah, I think it, once it firms up and people get a little bit more of an understanding about it, it'll be there. But the
Yeah.
NFTs are, they're that bleeding edge of like, we're here. But I mean, you can read news, and like I'm obviously super close up on a lot of like sneaker news and things like that because I work in the industry. But like Nike they just acquired a digital company that specialized in things like NFTs or like different types of advertising. And you know, you mentioned something that's really cool, and we've sort of kicked this around just industry wide and haven't really figured out a way to do it. But augmented reality,
Yep.
if you know what that is, or those of you on the call that are, you know, familiar understand that, but it essentially allows you to advertise over a physical space. So like use a camera and scan a QR code,
Yep.
maybe a dragon pops out or like
Yep.
something under, like a mask comes over somebody's face, or your shoes change or do that. That's really cool. Like
Yeah.
there's something really cool about what that looks like. And that's, you know, like again, I don't know where this fits in there too, but you talk about like things that are new and upcoming, like, you know, those are going to be interesting to see what we do in the future with some of that.
Yeah. I think from just the history standpoint, right? Like I grew up collecting baseball cards, and so you know the card industry is coming back with the pandemic.
Oh yeah.
Interesting how, you know, everyone wants these cards, and but I've also stated, and this is how I kind of feel, like I'm part of probably one of the most wasteful industries out there, the clothing industry. You know, we got to go paint t-shirts, you know. So I've told people that I think down the road, you know, you're going to start to see more digital type things. And I wouldn't put it far off if your daily outfit was a blank white t-shirt, and basically we put on glasses or spectacles or contact lenses, and you can literally change your outfits. And I mean, how much waste are we going to save by that? So from a environmental standpoint, you know, I can see, you know, how digital could be, we could eventually get there. But at the end of the day, people still like things, right? Like I like this sticker that you made, and I can touch it and put it somewhere.
Right.
But the value of artwork digitally is rising. Like, you know, I follow this account. I don't know if you've heard of it, My Tyke. They did these like animated, I should pull it up, these animated type sports figures. And it got really hot in 2014, 15 because a lot of these big athletes changed it to their profile picture. But a lot of kids and stuff were like, oh, what app is that? And they don't realize like the amount of time and work that, you know, to sit on like an Illustrator and create these digital vector pieces. It's just crazy. There's no app really to do it. And so they started saying like, we'll do custom pieces for you for $75. And a lot of people were like, oh, well, why do I want to do that for $75? Where's the value? Like, I just don't understand it. So I think they were battling with that at the time. But I think now, 2021, 22, as opposed to 14, 15, I think people are starting to pay more and they're getting on the wave. They're saying, yeah, it's worth it. I mean, literally, I had people sending me money, hundreds of dollars to create some of these, man. And I mean, it's not too hard to make this, but you got to sit down, you got to trace things out, you got to, make different things, you got to change colors. And there's people out there that are willing to pay for that. It's just, I guess, finding those people. And so, I'm not going to pull up my type right now, but, yeah, it's just crazy. Here, let me see if I can. But it's just crazy. Like, and they're trying to figure out like ways to put it on T-shirts and different things. But I think they have a lot of like licensing issues. I don't think that they've done a great job, like, because they're also at a point where like they say a lot of stuff and they were posting a lot of like custom pieces. And then I think they figured out, oh, we can make money off this. And then I think the guy had a couple of artists and they weren't getting paid enough, right? That type of thing. And they're like, screw this. Like, if you're not going to pay us to do all this, then, we're not going to help you out type thing. So, but.
Which is understandable, right? Like, is it, it's cool.
Yeah. So they're doing, I mean, you can see this type of stuff.
Right.
And.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I've seen that. Yeah. Okay. But like, I think that's a good point too, because it's a double-edged sword, right? Like, it's the devaluing of artwork too, which has always been an issue, I think,
yeah.
Art community in general, right? Like, especially I would say now that things are so instant that, in some instances, people think like art should be $5.
Yeah, or free.
Right? Like, it does not work that way. I'm not a robot. I am the face behind what I do. Okay?
Yeah.
I draw robots, but it takes me, a considerable amount of time, resources, all of that stuff. And that really is your packaging of like what you're producing from an artwork level. So,
yeah.
I think if you're not in the industry, people tend to glance over that because everything like Amazon out there, as amazing as that service is, like, I can go on there now and probably order something that looks similar to what I have. Oh, you want a robot drawing? It's already done and it's $8. You know what I mean? For me, if you're buying from an independent person like you too, like, there's no reason your art should be devalued because you as an independent person, like, you have to do it. Like, you have to sit down and do it. It's not automated. And I think the double-edged sword of a lot of these, where we are in the world today, especially with art. And I think, back to the original question, which is like why, the digital art in that space with there, I think that's what it is. When you do stuff digitally, people think like, oh, this is an app or this somehow is easier.
Yeah.
It is not easy. It's the same. It's literally the same, if sometimes not harder. Because taking a traditional artist who grew up in a time when, it's easier to grab a piece of paper and a pen and sit down and do that. You have to retrain yourself, and technology has to catch up during that time. Like, you've got to figure it out, right? It's not a skill set that's 100% transferable like all the time. But I mean, I think people got to wrap their heads around that a little bit more.
Yeah. And I mean, I'll tell you what, I've gotten jacked off with files as far as people like, send me the artwork. No, you got to pay me first, man. Oh, well, I can't, or I can't put the money down. It's just like, dude, you don't understand. Like, once you get this file, I'll give you the EPS file, I'll give you the vector file, and that's gold right there. And, for $70, $100, I mean, you can go put it on anything.
That's what I mean. Like, you're not charging a license thing. You're not saying like, okay, and then you put it on one t-shirt and it stops. You're like, here's this. You're paying for artwork carte blanche. So pay more money up front. Like, then you do exactly what you need to with it. But that's, I think it's people just, that's been the world in general, right? And I think even sure there was some like conversation like this back in the Renaissance time when two guys were sitting around drinking wine saying the same thing, like, why are they not valuing my brush strokes the way that
Yeah, yeah,
now we look at it and it's like, that's why they are the classics. I think that we'll hit that point, with digital art soon,
yeah,
but right now it's just not in favor, unfortunately.
yeah. What's a typical day like for you as far as between Reebok and then Dendo? How does generally what are you doing at this
Yeah,
point?
recently it's been pretty different, right? The last 2 years have been more focused on, I would say, just, us at home doing things, versus I mean, you've followed my Instagram. It's been very sort of, I haven't done a ton with it over the last 2 years, and I think that's been for sort of various reasons, whether it be I just didn't want to, I've been a little unmotivated with some of it. But I would say at the height, if we talk about where the height of this thing was, it was I would rip out a drawing either early in the morning. My wife likes to get up and work out in the morning, so it's easy to sort of get up, have a little bit of your own space, your own time, have a cup of coffee, sit down, knock out a drawing, have an idea for something. And it's good to keep a rhythm like that. Then you go into the work day, right? When we were going into the office, going for the 8 hours, you do your 9 to 5 in there too, which is for me, meetings, fits, tear down, stuff that goes along with the apparel industry, stuff that you're probably pretty familiar with. And then, yeah, after work, if I didn't do the drawing in the morning, or I had, something else to do in the afternoon, or, I felt like I wanted to knock out a tea design or something like that, or I had some packages to send out, it's either sort of the morning or the night sort of become your working windows for these independent endeavors that you have. But yeah, I mean, I think in the future, what I'd like to do is strike that balance up again. You know what I mean? Of like
Yeah,
making sure I've got that. My next steps and what I would love to do is get back into YouTube. I mentioned this earlier, but like,
yeah,
I have a little studio area set up right now, and I really want to get into 3D again. It's something that's been sort of lacking in my life a little bit. I mean, I love making model kits and things, and that's not what I'm advocating, but like, how can I bring some of that industrial design model making skill set back into my world now?
hmm,
I haven't done that. And I know a lot of people on my page have been like, oh, this would be really cool if it were like a one-off or a toy. And, you know, 3D printing is really interesting. Like, I think that's something you talk about the trajectory of the last couple of years, have like the prices of those things have come way down and, have become way more
yeah,
affordable. Something that you can wrap your head around, it either brings you joy, or it's something like, if you're looking to monetize on it, like there's some interest in there too. And even things like CNC machines, which allow you to sort of cut out like, independent pieces and stuff like that. Like, are, Glowforge is just a brand. I don't even know if they're the best that are out there, but like
yeah,
that's, these laser cutters, and I'm sure, I mean, you work with vinyl cutters and things like that
yep,
too. But the fact that like these, what used to be really large manufacturing machines, are becoming more and more available in the household is super cool. Like
yeah,
that, like these independent makers, right? And that's what I sort of would consider myself.
yeah,
It's like, how can I use that to further my craft, to further my art, to do
hmm,
something like that? And that's really cool. Like I'm thinking about like, how many different things can I do for YouTube in that space, whether it
yeah,
be vinyl cutting or laser cutting or things like that. And I mean, there's beauty of this too, is like, I don't even have to have a large upfront investment. I can send this out to a laser cutter or a vinyl cutter or somebody, have that done, get them back, and make it myself there too. So like, the initial investment in this stuff isn't huge, but
yeah,
the cool stuff. Anyway, you asked what a typical 9 to 5 looks like. I would like to get back into stuff like that, where like I'm starting to create more content. I got to get back into drawing. It's something that's been
yeah,
this time. We're heading into the holiday season now around here too, so I do have a little time off of work, which, I'm excited to sit down and get drawing again. So
yeah,
I'm looking for the next couple of weeks of like, I really want to start carving some of that stuff out too.
yeah. Now, have you ever thought about getting on like a Patreon, something like that, and building something like that? I mean, I feel like for someone like you, I feel like you could do like a month. I mean, obviously, it's about balancing, right? So this might be down the road when you start saying like, this is really what I want.
Hang on, Paul. Something weird's going on over here.
where you put like money into like there's tiers, and you know, he's built up a large Patreon thing, and people literally pay per month, and it's crazy. And I mean, that alone could pay for, you know, pay for a lot of things for you. Have you ever thought about anything with that?
Yeah, and I apologize. I know I was talking over you and I put my finger up, but you cut out there for a second. But I think I got the gist of what you were saying there. Um, Patreon, yeah, I think you're exactly right. It's the balance part of it, right? It's another thing on top of those other things, right? So it's yeah, it's interesting, and I have a page half set up right now with some ideas, but
Yeah.
like, it's the commitment level, and then like what I think that, and this might be a good question for those of you that are on the call here, or those that are sort of coming in and out. What would a Patreon reward tier look like for you? Like what do you find interesting? Like what do you what would you find as an added value that you would want a monthly piece for, right? Like, because I have a billion ideas, right? But some of them are less sustainable versus like, you know, like, does everyone really want a monthly t-shirt? And what is that like from like an investment level from my point?
How about, you know, one of these, you know, I mean,
Right.
you could crank those out
But I
pretty
guess
quick.
the other question too is like, how many of those do you really want at the end of the day? If I'm thinking about business mind, you know, like,
I think, dude, you could build, look at Pokemon, man. They keep making, like, how many do they really want? Well, some people have freaking thousands
right.
in their room.
Fair.
It's crazy. So I'm telling you, dude, like, I feel like you got a following, and I'm sure you get some people that are diehard collectors. Let me show you something quick. I'm gonna just go off, and I'll show you something that I have that I've kind of become a fan of, and I feel like they're a perfect example of someone who's, I guess, created a niche market, a niche market for what they're doing, and they created just a line of these like creatures. I'll show it to you.
Awesome. But yeah, if anybody on the call right now too, any thoughts about if you know of a Patreon or other things too, like, oh, super cool. What is that all clay though? Like what is
Yeah, so that's Sculpey.
that?
And this girl, it's called Little Lazies on Instagram, and she basically creates her own little creatures, and she does like, I don't know, 20, you know, she does a small batch of these different creatures, and this one, I think I paid, I don't know, $40-$50 for it. But you know what, dude, this is, you know, one of only 30 ever made.
Right.
So, you know, a perfect example, and she doesn't have a Patreon, but a perfect example of someone who's created a line of creatures, characters,
Mhm.
and there are some people out there, dude, that have to have one of everyone,
Right.
and they literally probably have a cabinet full of these things. I'm more of I would call myself a slight collector. Like, I collect like things here and there that really speak to me, like that like have some sort of value. Like, I got this tiger because you know, we went to RIT, so I was like, I have that connection, but I'm not going to probably buy like every one of her things. But there are people out there that, I mean, I'm sure you have some friends who, maybe even you do, collect some toys or something, and they need to have, you know, one of everything.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm full roboted in here too, but
Yeah.
I'm
So,
with
I mean, I feel like, I think you could really, you know, that's a great question. Maybe you start putting that out there for your followers and say, what do you guys want? Like, I feel like you could do t-shirts, and then you could do a line of a t-shirt and a sticker pack. You could do toys, if you figure that out. I feel like you could build something, and I mean, you can create levels on Patreon for $100. And dude,
right.
if you get, say, you know, 100 people on that $100 tier, how much money are you? I mean, I mean, I'm sure you've probably seen some of these artists are making bank, and that's what artists have done to, because a lot of people have, I don't know, stolen stuff. I guess the great example would be film, right? You see a lot of these film people that are like, we're not putting out any more films because everyone's just ripping it and then streaming it for free on the internet. So they're like, we need, and then so you're starting to see people, I guess, milking the system a little bit, and it kind of bothers me a little bit because, but I also can see from an artist standpoint where, yeah, you got to get paid for your time, and
Right.
if you feel like your work's getting stolen, but it's also helped them in a sense to build these followings. So it's interesting. It's definitely an interesting time, man. We've grown up in a interesting time, I think, since we were born because of technology. So,
Absolutely.
but yeah, I think that'd be, ask your following and see. Maybe we'll put it at the end, or you can put it out on Instagram and really see. And people will tell you, especially the ones
Yeah.
that care. And
Yeah.
I think you can
I,
do it, man.
I mean, that's you and I both work in that retail environment too. Like that's kind of where my head's at with it is like, and I've played in this world for a while now too, where like you throw stuff up online, it doesn't automatically mean it sells. Even though you may get a lot of likes on something, it might sit there for a long time, right? And
Yeah,
that you're producing something that the market just isn't necessarily like for a number of different reasons, right? Like they may not want it. Maybe you're overpriced, like the value of art, sort of things. Like there's gonna be certain people that get that. And then some people just may not believe in what you're doing and like, are nice to your face or maybe do like it, but it's free
yeah,
content. And that's sort of the double-edged sword of the Instagram thing too, is, well, I get it here. Why do I need it there too? And like, what is the value add to it? So I think you're right. It's figuring that out. And I think you bring up a lot of good points too. It's like, yeah, there's going to be some people that want that stuff. I think for me too, the interesting thing that I'm trying to figure out is like outside of the physical offerings of things too, like what is the either experience part or like knowledge part or training part that I can impart onto people through something like a Patreon or
yeah,
a video or things like that too. Because that's fulfilling, right? Like,
yeah,
I get a lot of requests too of like, well, what are you doing for this? Or like, every artist's favorite question, or what are those tools? Well, they're the same ones in the last 42 videos, but like, again, they're here, but like informing them a little bit more, like
yeah,
why selected and how to do this and how to build up the lines. And, those are things that I geek out about on, again, that, but I could be like a subsection of a subsection that cares about that. And like, maybe
yeah.
they're for the art. So yeah, I think it's me pulling the community, and like we had said before too, like anybody on here, like if you have thoughts around that, would I'm happy to throw that out there. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I think there's value in your craft, right? So you could offer, part of Patreon is, I'll do a class on, live class, but you have to, be a part of the Patreon to do it,
right,
dude. I'm telling you, if you sit down and think about it more, and I mean, even I could sit down and throw some ideas with you. I think you could do it. I know ultimately it just comes down to like believing you can do it and just going and doing it. And sometimes jumping into that next frontier, it can be, it's hard for your brain, right? To like say like, I'm going to jump in the fire right now, but
right,
believe that I'm going to survive, that type of thing. So,
absolutely,
and, I deal with that all the time, but at the end of the day, I know I'm at a point doing this for 10 plus years that I know like I'm gonna wake up the next day and I'm gonna have work coming. But dude, I lived in the shit for many years to get to where I am. And it's hard. It's hard because you know you're basically feeling like you're alone, and a lot of times the people that love you the most, right? My mom and dad, grandparents. What are you doing? Like, why are you what is this? And it hurts. But at the end of the day, for me, this is what I want to do, man, and I'm going to do it. So, and I'm proud of what I've built, and I think deep down the people that are close to me are too. And sometimes you want to hear it from them, and it's tough for me, I think, with my parents because they never really got it,
right,
is they never understood like, why is he doing this now, like with this degree. It is what it is, man. The stories, the people I've met, the places that I've went because of this, I could never do getting just a standard job. And I think you can get there. And so I, I see what you're doing, and that's why it excites me. And I know you're at that level where you're like, should I stick around for the Reebok, or should I, branch off? And it's hard, but I think you can get there.
yeah. I think there's certainly people in everyone's lives that are the naysayers and then the champions, right?
Yeah,
I am so incredibly lucky that my wife and my extended family and those that are on the call too, because I've seen names flash up on here too. Like, they are my biggest supporters and advocators, you know, like
Yeah.
I mentioned before too, like my father-in-law is an entrepreneur and really took a lot of risks. And, you know, my wife, my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law, like that side of the family, and obviously my mother and my sister as well too, but like they are really my biggest champions. Like if you talk about a support network, like if anything, they're the ones like that put extra nets up to help, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead
Yeah.
ways. So I'm so happy to have them all in my life. And like, you know, again, I think it's less of that. It's more of my own like, do I want to do that? Like, you know, there's days you wake up and
Yep.
want, right? Like, and I think it's getting out of that comfort zone is my biggest enemy at this
Yeah.
point, right? Because everyone else is like trying to kick my ass out of the nest to do it, but like I'm like, yeah, but there's this really cool video game that I can play instead. And you
Look,
know,
man, I know this, and so it's battling that, and I'm hoping that you go to the next level. But it is what it is. It's your choice, and either way, I mean, I'm a big fan of what you're doing. So you know, regardless, you know, you got to do what's best for you. You know, but I'm hoping, I'm praying that you take it to another level because I mean, if you do a Patreon, I don't do any Patreons, man, but maybe I might do yours just because you know dude, I've been following you for a while, and you know, it's just cool what you're doing, and I'm a believer in what you're doing. So, and I think you might be surprised that there might be 20 to 50 to 200 people that might feel the same way. So, um, what inspires you? Like, who are some of your favorite designers and illustrators?
I mean, there's so many, right? Like because I work in a design environment daily, obviously I'm surrounded by amazing team members, you know, on the day to day that, you know, challenge me and push me both from a management standpoint as well as like a peer, you know, and I'm talking about sort of the corporate Reebok day. And I have
Yep.
so many amazing friends, as I mentioned before, people that are on this call too, that really if you're important to me, we stay in touch and everyone knows that, right? And that's whether it be through Instagram, occasionally touching base or like weekly calls or whatever. Like there's so many amazing people that inspire me daily. And then I would say, you know, Instagram, and without sort of name dropping everybody on there, but there's this guy, Take G Toys, who's a wooden sculptor. Like he does amazing stuff. I'm really recently, I would say my two biggest sources of inspiration have been through, you know, video games, but not necessarily through like the playing of them, which I think, you know, when I was younger, I maybe, you know, was more interested in, but now like the story arcs, the visual development of them, you know, what the platforms are able to produce that make things like make you want to go to the next level. Like you're okay to die to that boss for 100th time because they're compelling and strong and it moves the story along by doing that. And then I think, like I had mentioned before, too, the 3D elements, like people that are doing cool things. My buddy Jimmy turned me on to this guy, Shape Carver, who is super cool. Like you know, he does a lot of stuff online on YouTube. He does some 2D stuff, but really his 3D stuff is super cool. And it's more like kit bashing and like just taking a bunch of random shit and pulling that together. And that stuff is
Yeah.
so making art out of junk and into like, you know, 3D things. I mean, there's so many people. Studson Studios on YouTube's another one who kills it. Does a lot of sort of those junk sculpture things, but then they turn into these beautiful anime products at the end. And it's just like, it's just one of those rewarding things to watch. And then Studio G, I mentioned that before too, is the Gundam guy like that. It just kills it. Like, dude just buys a kit and makes it his own. And like, it's like the level of craft that goes into that. And you can say, well, it's just a model kit, but it's not. I mean, this guy is literally like, he's just using parts that snap together and then making it so much more. Like it's a craft in and of itself. So
Yeah.
those are my inspiration points now. And like, again, then I follow a lot of people obviously on Instagram too, but it's really more of the surrounding people in my life that they really inspire me for different reasons. And it could be work ethic versus like, you know, visual development. I think a lot of people look at like, who's really good? Well, whose work ethic is actually better? Like, and there's so many people out there that just kill it on a day to day, you know, that like just want to work more, want to get better, you know, and that's
Yeah.
arguably more inspiring than just another person who's drawing something, you know?
Yeah. I think putting in the time, you know, the more you put into your craft, I always say this, it's like working out, going to the gym. Like you can't expect results, by going once a week. You got to put in every day, or at least, more than, you know, a couple days, and you got to do it for a long period of time. And I think this is one of the challenges I think that I'm seeing today. Everyone wants to be a business owner now with the internet, and everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, right? But they don't understand really what it totally takes, or don't want to do it. Like you said, I could sit and play video games, or I could do this, what you choose, which path you want. But ultimately, I know this from my own experiences, like the more you put into it, especially now with the power of the internet, the more you might strike out a lot, but eventually you're gonna get some home runs, and then those home runs are gonna lead to grand slams, and you're gonna see the results you want. But it just takes years, man. Like I always tell some I've been working with who expect results in literally 6 months. It's like, dude, I've been doing this for 10 years. Like it's just, you gotta put in the time, and it's just hard. But I think you're right at that point once again, like where you're right there, man. You've built the following, and it's just getting motivated to get to that next point. And so hopefully I'm kind of pushing you a little bit with this, but you got to do what's best for you too. And I know you're in a great world where you're working Reebok, so you're doing that, and it's great, and you got the benefits and different things like that. So it's just a matter of what's going to take you to that next level. So I'm excited to see that with you.
Thank you. I mean, I guarantee after this call too, like I said, I know I have a lot of my support network that's joining this too. So I'm sure they're all gonna be like, well, now you said it, so why don't you start doing it? A bit of this is accountability, right?
Yeah, and dude, like it's tough. Like could I be doing this interview today, or could I be, out having a beer somewhere? Yes, but it's my choice.
Why didn't we do both?
We could, I could have a beer right now. I have some wine, but I mean, I have kids watching this too, so I don't want to. But I have another Instagram page for that.
Okay.
XX rated. No, it's just my brother and I have a couple like beer drinking and food tasting pages. You probably know some people like that. We've gotten to that kind of culture. We enjoy it, but maybe on the next one we could enjoy beer or something like that. But I mean, now just the possibilities are just crazy. Like you can do it. I could be in Hawaii right now on a beach, and I could be working on an iPad. You could be doing that. So there's just, I guess, no excuse, I guess, to do it and still have fun and enjoy yourself. And for me, man, like I'll take little mini trips, but I'll also like build those trips off of, meeting people that I did t-shirts for. I'll meet the families, so I'll turn it into like a tax write-off. I'll half the day I'll be spending with these families and meeting people, but then the other half I'll bring some friends with me, and we'll go hang out and enjoy wherever we are. So I think it's about just balancing that, but you can definitely do it. So the next question I have for you is, what was like your first memory with Kicks Clothing?
I mean, we talked about this before too. Like, I remember when you like first launched this thing, I remember the whole story. Like when you had first posted, like I remember that moment, right?
Was it on Facebook, or do you know?
I don't remember if it was on Facebook. It might have even been like on some other network. Probably was Facebook, because
maybe Coreflot. Like I posted on Coreflot.
Yeah,
too.
Put it on there too. That's another one where like people, it's come sort of up and down, but like that was hot for. I remember you stitching it into the armband. Like
yeah, and I did that like in college. That was kind of like my thing. I just kind of did that freehand, and I kind of, I wore them in games. I warming up, and it was people like, yo, where's that? How can I get one of those? And it was just like, I just always wanted to have my own like Jordan silhouette type thing, but I wanted it for myself, pitching in baseball. So, and I mean, now just look at all these. I mean, these are
so cool.
A few of the hundreds upon probably thousands that I've made. And then for everyone, it's a different story. For a lot of these people, it was a home run, a meaningful thing in their life. And to turn it into, you know, a wearable piece is, I mean, it's just invaluable for people. A lot of people have told me like that even when the kid or their kid or they grow out of it, you know, they'll keep it and put it in a chest or make it into a t-shirt quilt because it's just it's forever, you know, it's a memory. And so I created my own like slogan, making your memories into something more, because it really is. It's taking that. So I think for me, like, it's just capitalizing and figuring out, I guess, what makes you unique and what you have and how you can bring that to other people. And I guess, you know, provide value for them. So, yeah, it's been crazy. It's been fun, but I kind of like doing this type of stuff too. I like sharing stories because I've met a lot of people along the way. So I know for me, maybe down in the future, I'm going to probably be doing more of these. And I even went to RIT and I said, look, you guys constantly call me for money, right? Like you're sending me emails, you're calling me 585. I'm not blocking your number, but I know exactly where it is. Decline. I'm not answering your call. What if you guys started like featuring, you know, and out of every college, it doesn't have to be College of Image Arts, Art and Design, it could be engineering, whatever, and hire on, you know, people that could do calls like this. You don't even have to be with them now, and literally share people's stories. I think I would be more willing to give a little bit of my hard-earned money if you showed me a little bit more love that way. And I don't think RIT is doing a good job with that. And I've even talked with them and I said, look, like, even like the library department, you know, yeah. I brought this idea. I'm like, so maybe I just bring it to them, like, hire me. And I leave kicks, I sell it, whatever. I don't even, who knows? But I do love sharing people's stories. I love just the freedom of that. Mm-hmm. So, you know, from my standpoint, who really knows? But I mean, I appreciate, you know, you following along, you know, and it's been cool.
I mean, I think it's cool too. Like I mean, you're primed to do that, right? And I think, you know, people love hearing stories. There's like, look at Marvel, right? I go back to that one and too, like, we were joking about this the other day, but like, how many times can you reboot Spider-Man? But it keeps working because, you know, there's either a new version of somebody that's like, not a new version of somebody, but a new generation of people that are being interested in the franchise, or people just love a good origin story, right? So you have all of those kids behind you too. Like, you know, where are they now? Like, that can be a whole thing of like, hey, do you remember this? Or like, what's going on there? But I agree. I think the power of your brand is in those specialized moments and telling those stories, and even propelling that forward for you too, of like sharing more and more of that, you know, like, this is why this silhouette is important. This is why I do that. But like, more in a forum like this, like, you know, and it doesn't have to be like an hour-long deal like we're doing right now, but this is a lot of us catching up too. But it could just be like as simple as like, here's your forum, tell your story. Like, and I think you have so many, like you said, those independent things, or like, you say you go and you meet with the families, like, how cool, like, check beforehand, like, hey, why was this moment, this is clearly important, but to you and to you and to you and to you, what were you doing? How did this play out? Like, what were those things? I even think back to, you know, I played a lot of sports growing up too, but like, I'm sure my mom's got those stories too of like, what was I like the day before a big meet? Because I ran track and field, and that was pretty much my big sport in cross country, and played soccer. But like, what were those big meet days? Like, what were those? What was that like? What was it like when the friends came over too? Because we had a really good group. I ran the 4x8 and the 4x4 as well too. So like, there would always be sort of this pack of four of us that would come around. But like, what was our mentality during that day? Or like, what did we do? Or where did we go? But like, there's something cool about that. But I think you can, like, building on those stories, people love that stuff. Like, you talk about like anybody getting involved and bringing them closer into the brand. Like, you have the forum to do that. That would be
Now, one thing I've started to do, and I was just thinking about this for you, is have you ever, I mean, you've seen it, you know, people do ambassador programs, right? Like, and we're living in a world now where, let's be honest here, it's a women-driven world with the internet and, you know, TikTok, and all the girls are just going crazy. You know, have you ever thought about, you know, using influencers, ambassadors, you know, people that draw in like high traffic on their followings? Like, have you ever thought about sending people or trying to work out like a deal because they have such a following to try to pull that in. And I guess eventually just influence your brand. Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, I thought about it here and there. I mean, I think again, it's getting the right product mix and the right person.
Yeah.
Like it's a double-edged sword. It can play out poorly
Yeah.
quickly, right? Like is that's kind of the scary part about getting too big too. And like you got like, people are people, right? And sometimes like their values, change,
Yep.
or they do some things that are uncharacteristic, or you just got to be smart. So it's tough, like it's finding the right person who you believe in, who their ethos
Yeah.
has longevity, right? Like that. So you think about it, but then things can go sideways, and you don't know. Like just there's a
Well,
lot
hey
of
man, look at say Nike and some of the things, pull on Kaepernick. People are gonna, but it's crazy though, But yeah, it's something I've kind of started to do a little bit more. I've pulled on influencers or just ambassadors. It's a great way for me to advertise as well and create original content and continue to create original content.
I think there's
So
a upside to it. Don't get me
yeah,
wrong, but
yeah.
I think again,
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, just like you said. And
and it's well, it's
you have to choose
also
that.
like it can be the way that I look at it is like, is it more of a partnership too? Like you're saying,
Yeah,
like, is it
yeah,
a one and done, like a merch drop that you don't really know what you're going to get from it, or is it more of an
yeah,
ongoing thing, right? Like,
yeah,
who can you partner with that makes sense? And maybe it's more, and it's even like, what are the ethos of a brand? Even if you go down that world, like again, I keep going back to like recurring jokes on my phone and stuff, but like, you look at these brands that all these YouTubers shout out, like, what happens if all of a sudden their CEO does something that's really unsavory and like is not good? Then like,
Well, we see it a lot these days, man.
what I
Look at
mean,
Aaron
right?
Rodgers, like, and all
Yeah,
that stuff. But you know what? I think it's your choice. So, but I think if you make the right calls, it's good. And just look at Tiger Woods. Look at his rise and fall. Like, and Nike stuck with him. So it's just very interesting. And I've started to do it a little bit more. And it's for me, it's just continually creating original content. So it's great for advertising.
right.
So like I'm always going to be pumping out, hey, check out this new custom for so and so, and you just never know who they're going to influence. But once again, they could make a wrong decision, and how is that going to, I guess, make your brand look? But it's a risk, right? So, but it's something that I've, along with a lot of other things, said, you know what, I'm going to do it, and
Sure.
it's led to also some great connections for me. I got a kid right now who I'm working out kind of a deal with, and most of it's just I make you free custom stuff, free stuff. They're not paying for it. You wear it. I'll post up some pictures on my feed, and that's about it. And but a lot of times what happens is a lot of those people feel like a great connection then, and they say, well, I play on this softball team, could you do my t-shirts? Or I do this. So it led to business for me down the road, and it's that kind of connection. But I have a kid right now, and I'm working with him, and he's a local cross country runner up here, a runner. And dude, I mean, there's a few times in life where you see a kid and like, this kid is like really good, and then there's like times where like, this kid is like next level good. And so fortunately for my high school, which I still do a lot with, they have this type of kid who's just an unbelievable athlete, and he's like one of the best runners in the States, if not,
Mm-hmm.
for his age. And I'm working out just a very small deal where I'm going to create his own branding and logo. And the kid's like, I chatted with his mom on the phone, and she was very concerned about like what my motives were and that type of thing. But I said, look, like, I'm from West Tennessee. I ran cross country. I followed your son on social media and then like some running sites, and I'm like, your son's the real deal, and he's as humble as can be. So that's another thing too. With the logo, it can sometimes come off as like, oh, you're all about yourself type thing. But at the end of the day, man, look at all these pro players. Look at Patrick Mahomes. Look at Jordan. I mean, for people, I mean, you're representing yourself, and I've always believed in that. So, I'm working on a deal with him right now, and it's just going to be cool for me. I think, like you said, like you look back at these and you're like, where are they now? And so I've done some work for some people that are now in Major League Baseball. It's freaking crazy.
Right.
And you're like, looking back, I think recently on my Instagram yesterday, this kid went viral from Rochester. He went to Victor, played basketball. He's a big dude. He's like
Yeah.
7 foot, like 300 something pounds or something crazy. He went viral on the internet in the last 2 weeks. He literally DM'd me in 2014 about entering one of my contests. It's freaking crazy, man. And then you look back. So, yeah, it's just very interesting, but maybe something to consider down the road for you. And obviously, you might run into, pros and cons, but it might help you in some ways.
Yeah,
So,
sure. You got to do what's right for you, right? And I think that's the sort of the beauty of running your own business is you're going to get to those. You make those choices, right? I mean, that is literally the lore of Nike, which is one of the things I love. We talk about like origin stories and things like you had mentioned, like Jordan and that, but the lore, whether it's true or not, the way that it's written in, the script.
Jordan changed the game. That when they did Jumpman, man, that's the aura of Jordan, right? Like this is why we continue to talk about him. It's not just because he was an amazing athlete, but because he came in the perfect time. The sneaker industry was never like that before, and they literally got him. Look at LeBron. Like he was almost gonna go with Adidas, but he really wanted Nike, and then they swooped in and got him. And I mean, those type of deals, man, could make or break your company as far as the branding. I mean, you look at like Under Armour. Like they're the only reason they're even viable in basketball is Steph Curry. And I mean, I wouldn't wear those shoes, man, but like because Steph Curry does, all these kids are like, I want to be the next Steph, and Steph's the greatest pure ball shooter ever, I'm gonna say. And so it's the industry too for like youth sports, man, is crazy. Like I don't know if you've been following, but I've done some work for some families and kids that are literally like 7, and they have more of a following than a lot of pro athletes. Crazy, man. I'll show you this. I met this family from New Jersey, and this is Joey Baseball 12, and he's literally featured on the cover of Time magazine about youth sports. And so I had Joey sign this, and he was probably about 11 or 12 at the time, and he was just another kid, but he was like your Jose Altuve, right? Like he was smaller than you're at, but he was just heart over height. And yet he got viral on Instagram because a couple celebrities like Miguel Cabrera, MLB players, were reposting him, and it just went crazy. So I actually was able to meet Joey and his dad in Cooperstown, I think a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And the cool thing for me is I'm about an hour and a half to 2 hours away from Cooperstown.
Right.
So a lot of these families bring their kids to Cooperstown at a certain age because it's like the mecca of, youth baseball.
Right.
So it's just crazy, man. Like, and this kid, he's got like 65 to 75K or more like followers. Now it comes with a price, right? So the dad was monitoring the account, and there's a lot of love and there's a lot of hate.
Right.
So I think you see a lot as they get kind of older, it kind of sputters out because it's a daily task and job for some of these people, man. But it's just cool to see. I mean, and this is one story for me. I framed it. He's featured on a couple of my business cards around there, and I mean, that's cool, man. Time magazine to be featured on that.
But like we said before, like if you have access at some point, right? Like that's a great story to bring in. Like talk about this, or talk about, like, everyone knows this story. What's the stuff we don't know?
Yeah.
That's but you have so many of those. That's what I mean. And like you said, like your roster from doing this stuff. I mean, just on what's behind you right now is so deep. Like that's years worth of content for you to pull out, which is so
Yeah.
cool. So,
Yeah. I mean, I do so I pull out so these are a lot of these are on business cards. So I've been doing business card reviews and, because the card industry, sports cards is all collectible. So I'm kind of getting into it right now. And, I put the value of these cards, like I have a collection now. I think we're going to go on to the number 18. So, dude, I mean, it's 18 different cards of 40 different people on each one. Like, and so it's just longevity and it's just cool. Like, and I go through and I highlight them and I'm putting it up on YouTube. That's one thing I've been starting to do. And it's just, I mean, the story is, it's just, it can go on forever. So, I feel like, eventually you're going to get to be more there. I mean, you already have, you could start to pull up all these, you have the content. Like you literally have made like hundreds of these.
yeah.
You could do a lot of different things with them, man. It's just, I guess, figuring out like what you want to do. So, but so the a couple of the props that you have, what story is behind the prop that you have
Yeah,
there?
I pulled these guys out. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of my stuff is I had a studio set up and we moved house at the beginning of the pandemic, but some of the stuff still packed up, so I was able to get these pretty quick. But I am a big toy collector in terms of like vinyl toys or model kits or things like that. But my wife got me both this one, and this is a model kit, and sort of its counterpart here too, which is, I mean, these things are wild. I wish I had the bases and everything set up because they're models, so
Yeah.
they're called perfect grade Gundams, and they've got these really cool LEDs embedded them inside of them too. So like when they open up, like all parts shift inside of there, and his eyes
Yeah.
glow. Like they are really some of the coolest things I own. Like, and on top of that too, like they're just amazing to make. Like they're several days worth of building them out, but
Yeah.
like to me, they're worth the cost, and it's just, yeah, I'm like in awe of them too. Plus, I mean, this thing is huge. Like you're
Yeah.
talking about something that like you're gripping in front of you. Like
Yeah.
it's cool. They're fully articulate. Like, but I mean, I think I search out robots like that, or like if I'm in Japan, like I said, I've been lucky to go over there, but like there's some really, really, really cool comic book stores over there that have. There's one, it's called, oh, the name's escaping me right now, but it's in Shibuya, which is like one of the major shopping districts over there in the heart of Tokyo. Um, and you go downstairs into this sort of like underground labyrinth. You walk down 3 stairs and you're like, oh my God, what is happening here? And it opens up and it's all this sprawling comic book first floor. But in these display cases in the very back, they have old toys from the 60s and 70s in there. So like
Okay.
old kaiju, which are the big monsters, and old Ultraman and old Transformers, or things that inspired Transformers. Like I want to go back there. I know my wife is watching this too. So Christina, when we go back there at some point, I want to buy some of these older toys. But I would love to get some of those really cool old vintage pieces. I mean, they're not super my style, but some of them are just like, they're just so
Iconic.
cool because they inform like all of the stuff that happens after them, like Tetsugen 28 or Gigantorch, I think is what we called it in the US. I mean, there's just so many cool ones that like
Yeah.
I really want those, or like the old Astro Boys. Like there's just, I don't know. That's what I love. But I mean, now I like search out and, friends send me stuff all the time. Like, hey, did you see this new toy, this new robot? Or like Hasbro puts out this, $1,000 Unicron, like custom made thing too. And I was like, oh, I can't justify that, but I want it. But those always stand as sort of a source of inspiration for me. And that's gone on since, I was young in the 80s.
So what I'll tell your wife is maybe you could start buying those and use it as a tax write-off. They're inspiration for you. So like, maybe you could work that out. Some way, shape, or form. But I will say this: I've done some work for a family, and their one son plays baseball, a very great baseball player, and their other son, he's got a few things going on. I know he's kind of had some challenges in his life. and he does some like food reviews, so he likes going to like pizza places, and that's kind of his thing. Like, and the whole bar stool scene, that's a whole nother world. But I kind of gotten into it with the pizza reviews and Portnoy. It's interesting. So, and how you kind of like everyone feels like they have the power to vote and say what they want to say. I've been trying to do a dual review with him for months, but he's had some medical things happening, and I finally was able to. He was having a good day last week. It was either a week ago or so, and I met him down at a toy store. Probably about 30 to 40 minutes, and I told his dad, I said, and I'm not one to gloat about this, but I was like, I want to donate I want to give you some money for your son as a gift. And I want him to get some toys. So we go in this Goliath Toys in Phoenix, and he's literally, when I walk in the door, he's standing with 2 Transformers. I have no idea, dude. You probably would look at him and be like, I know what that exactly is. I have no idea. But for him, like, these Transformers are like, it's something that he like loves. So we're literally in the toy store for and he's like 11 to 12 years old or something, maybe 13. And we literally were in there shooting the shit with the owner for like 40 minutes as he's trying to figure out like which ones he wants. And finally he picks out, like, I don't know, they do some kind of bundle package deal. And so we leave. There's a picture on my Instagram with him, in front of the toy store, and we leave, and I go, man, it's lunchtime. Let's go get a little pizza and do a little review, just kind of, because I've been wanting to do that with him. Yeah. And we drove down the road to this place called Avicoli's, and so we did the review, and then he wanted to review his toys. And dude, some of these he had, I don't even know, man. Some of these Transformers were from like 1980. Mm-hmm. And one was like a laser gun that it turned from a laser. He knew exactly what they were. I had no idea, but it was fascinating for me to kind of listen to him about that. I'm sure you probably appreciate it more than me, but I grew up with toys. Like, I had the X-Men. Yeah. I pulled out, so they had a Snake Eyes G.I. Joe figurine, and I looked at it, and it was in the packaging, and it was $130 or something like that. I'm like, dude, I have this exact same thing at my house, but it's not like packaged or anything.
Of course.
Yeah, and I pulled it out and I got it. And I'm like going through all my old toys, like, dude, I have this. But it's just nostalgic. And for me, it's just cool. What I'm going to kind of get at is what kind of like inspires you the most as far as like making these? Is it Transformers? Is it Pokemon? What would you say like you're looking at the most and like for inspiration?
I think it's whatever genre I'm into at the moment, right? So if a new Pokemon game comes out, then chances are I'm going to pull some stuff from there. Or I recently went back, and because of one of my really close friends, he's like, you should get into One Piece. And if you know anything about anime, One Piece is, with the exception of a few things, but like in its modern form, one of the longest and most profitable anime and manga franchises going on. So I read that thing start to finish, and I was like, oh man, I have to throw down on some of these characters. Like, they're just so cool, but it'll always be through the lens of sort of what my brand is or what my personal take is on them, which is through that robotic lens. So, I might do a Luffy piece, or I might do like the Heracross that you have in the back there, but it'll come through as a robot. So it just depends on what I'm into in the moment, like now I want to do a piece. I'm playing Metroid Dread, which came out a couple months ago or a couple weeks ago now, but it's the newest Metroid game. It reminds me of the one that came out for Nintendo and Super Nintendo. It's a 2D platformer. It's amazing, but the graphics are killer, but it still has that old school feel to it, just modernized controls and stuff. But man, all I want to do now is draw Samus, like I just want to or something in the series. And it's like, it's just whatever is in that sort of moment that
Yeah, I like how you kind of jump from like different things and you create. And dude, this is exactly what you could do. Like, you could literally just dream up whatever series you want and go from one series to the next series to the next series. Just like how like this girl has, you know, she just goes infinity with these. Just when you think she could be done, she does, you know, the next thing,
Right.
and she's created a business off of it, you know. And so I know you can get there. So as you can see, the reoccurring theme here is I'm trying to push you,
But
um, and but yeah, man, it's cool.
awesome.
What's the next question here is, as we kind of end it, what have you learned so far as being a designer and illustrator, and what advice would you give like someone who's trying to get in the field?
Oh, I think that's a big question, right? Like it depends on, I don't think there's a tailor-made version for everyone, right? It really depends on like, what do you want? You know, and I tie this back to the word success, right? I think everyone has a different version of what success is, right? Like if you're asking Instagram or like, you know, the things that we see maybe on television or the people that we sort of idolize slash glamorize, whether it be, and I'm not saying that I do this, but like you think about the millionaire billionaires that are out there, the Musks and Bezos and people of that world, like if that's the level of success, that's going to be very different than somebody who wants to just lead a good, straightforward life, you know, and then there's the stuff that's in between there, right?
Mm-hmm.
It depends on what you want to do for and where you are at your point in your life too. You know what I mean? Like if you have a family and kids and things like that,
Yep.
there's different levers that you have to pull and maybe things that you find yourself chasing more in one moment than you would, you know, in maybe a couple previous years. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think a lot of people get hung up on things like taking a step back and or accelerating and asking and approaching and looking for more money or being comfortable with where they are because of the way that society is sort of, especially in what I would say a traditional corporate environment is like you always have to be laddering up or you get stagnant. And I think that's the, like, you've got to pinpoint where you want your success to be and do that. I know that that's sort of my first part to this question. Then it's like, well, what does that look like? So for me, it's surrounding yourself with the right people, the people that are pushing you, like challenging you, like you are on this call. Again, my support network of my family and my close friends that allow me to do that, and the right people within the right companies. And if you find yourself at any point in certain companies not being able to have that or having champions in your corner too, it might be time for you to move on. And that's a natural life cycle. I think the other thing too,
Yep.
that like people get worried, and like if you have a manager, if you have somebody that like is not supportive of you and your growth, then that's just not a good manager in general. That's just not a
Yeah.
good person in general. So
Yeah.
you really question like what is your goal for staying there? Can you gut it out, or why should you gut it out? But all these things come into play. But in terms of finding success, it's like you got to carve that out and figure out what you want out of that too. Like, and I will say, like, of everything else that's in there, talent is probably the smallest sliver that comes into play,
Yeah.
right? Because your work ethic, where you're going to find your lanes, right? And again, we go back to this, like we're perfect examples, right? Signed up for animation on my end, went to school for illustration, pivoted to industrial design, and now I work in fashion apparel. Ain't none of that linear. But and again, I know you're in the same boat too. Where we did land is in a design, you know, space that tailors to who we are, what our needs are, and we've found success in our own different ways in there. And that has a lot to do with work versus talent output in
Mm-hmm.
a lot of cases, right? It's sometimes talent will land you your job going into the door, but then you see people flame up and drop, or you know they flame up and maybe they're now in a role that they're just not right for in that moment, which
Mm-hmm.
again, talent doesn't always necessarily relate to, and 100% doesn't, life experiences, lived
Yep.
experiences, and you learn that the more you go through life,
Yeah.
obviously. um but like again, I know it's a convoluted question, but there's I would say the biggest thing is like talent is one section. I mean, you have to know what you're doing to get
Yep.
in there. Talent and skill set do sort of sit side by side a little bit, but you're going to learn a lot, you know, in the industry. You're going to learn a lot in the day to day. You're going to learn a lot in your own life. You're going to learn a lot from world experiences and things that you don't live. So like you're constantly learning and growing. And I think that's important in there too, is like, always be mobile, always be looking for those opportunities. I know you do that even in a day-to-day job of something that you run, but in, you know, the corporate world and the places that I've lived too, is like, okay, what is the next step? What is the next thing? And that's not always necessarily looking up. And that took me a long time to get there. And again, I give a lot of credit to everyone that's around me, especially my wife, for that one too, of going like, okay, you don't have to push forward like this. You could stay here and do this, or this is what you need to do to get better with what you're doing. This is how you need to seek out. And that's really, I would say, the most important thing is like, make sure you have that support network of friends,
Mhm.
family, whomever is going to help you be a better person at the end of the day. And you'll find success in life with that. And I think, you know, sort of the last thing to put on there is a job is not defining you as an entire person. A job is a section of that too. And it took me a long time to, you know, get to that realization too, is like, I'm not defined by where I work. I'm defined by the company that I keep. That is one section of it, but there's so much more that goes into you as a person. But I
Yeah.
think, especially in the US, we champion this live to work mentality a lot of places, and you really got to like look at that. And I think that's, in the last 2 years, a lot of people have realized like, no, you know, there's so much more here. Like there is so much beyond what a nine to
Yeah.
five. So figure that stuff out for you, and, you know, like make your life right. Don't make your job right. Like, but really take some of the power back for yourself. And
Yeah.
that to me is like, it's so important to do. And it's something that
Yeah.
I keep in my mind. And obviously there's scary stuff that goes along with that. Like you had mentioned it before too, like there's benefits, there's great pay, there's stuff that goes along with working
Yeah.
in house, and it's the risk to reward. And
Yeah.
if you're comfortable with it, you do it. But if it's going to pull another section of your life way down too, you don't do it. You know, you got to weigh the checks and balances. And, you know, there is no perfect scenario either. You know what I mean? Like there is, like you had said before, you do probably triple the work chasing stuff down because it's you at the end of the day. I do a shitload of work, but it's in a lane, right? Like there's other people that then pick that up because that's their jobs, right? Like you are a one-stop shop for who you are, which is cool, but it's also, you know, it's your job. So if Paul doesn't decide he's going to do something today, Paul suffers. You know, if Dan doesn't get something done, it's not good that I don't get it done, but
Yeah.
there are checks and balances that go along there, or there are other people that specialize in stuff
Yeah.
like that. So, you know, it's, I know that you'd asked like success and finding that, but like I said, I think the biggest thing to put sort of a pin on that whole thing is surround yourself with the right people, look at it holistically. Um, and make sure you're, especially, you have find people that are challenging you to be a better version of yourself than you were yesterday.
Yeah.
That's the most important.
And that's what we're doing right here, Dan.
I think, you know, the majority of people on this call too, and, you know, like I said, my network, and I appreciate you doing this, and it's to challenge each other, you
Yeah.
know, and keep doing that and building that. So find those.
That's for me, what drives me. I'm as competitive as it can be. You know, I grew up competitive. Like that's what I mean, I'm the oldest of six. We all played sports, and what drives me is just a new challenge every day. And you know, sometimes it's about giving yourself those challenges, which is the hardest thing. And that's what you're kind of doing with this, is no one's telling you what to do. You're doing it. And but it's fun, man. Like you can literally dream up what you want, and you've created your world, and that's kind of what I've done and what you're doing, and you'll continue to do. And you're the game master, man. And so, but it comes with risk. It comes with reward. It also comes with punishment, right? So I did run contests for a while, which grew my following. Is I had people sending me sport action photos, and every day, I don't know if you followed along or you saw these, but I do one photo versus another.
Yep.
And you know, if you won 7 days in a row of getting the most likes, you know, you get a custom shirt with your photo as the logo, so it's a prize. And kids loved it, parents loved it, they got into it. But dude, oh my god, they're cheating, they're buying likes, and this is the stuff I have to deal with.
I know.
And you know, I'm trying to monitor it. You know, I'm trying to like figure out ways to like, you know, stop this from happening. And I started putting stuff on my story, and yet people would still buy bots to go live. It's like, dude, really? But
Hmm.
this it's the price you pay to do some of these things, especially because people loved it so much. And I will be honest, I don't honestly miss them so
Yeah.
much, even though I think a lot of some people left because they like those type of things. But at the end of the day, man, like it's just a lot. And I still want to be happy with what I'm doing, and I'm in a new stage. And with whether it's me or you always got to look back and say, am I consistent with what I'm doing? Is the message consistent? And I always look back at what I created with the custom silhouette, and it's always been that. So, and for you, it's your style. As long as you don't lose that focus, I think, the possibilities are endless. And from my standpoint, it's just the more you work, uh, the hard work you put into it, the time, the better it's going to get. There will be risks and there'll be rewards, there'll be downsides, but I can see you right there, and I'm excited. This is why I'm supporting you, and I hope to continue to support you. Hopefully, you get on that Patreon wave and do some, take that next step.
Thanks, man.
Um, and we'll finish it off here with the last question, which is, where do you see kind of the future of Dendo in the next, say, a couple of years to maybe 10 years or beyond?
Yeah, I mean, that's another tricky one, right? Like, I think things are progressing rapidly in so many different areas. So what I want to do, and I would say I'll make commitments on this right now for accountability, like I want
Yeah,
to make those, and there are some t-shirts and things that I have done. I literally just need to get them on the store, which are, they're catering to some of my more popular posts that I've done there too. Some stuff that I'm just doing is a little bit different. Um, Changing sort of how I'm doing t-shirts, where I'm not developing myself in-house and looking more at a drop shipping method
yep,
this time
yep.
around, I think is more beneficial to me until I sort of ramp up. So that was definitely a mistake that I made early on, was over committing to some stuff. So
Yep.
sat on t-shirts for a long time, still have quite a few, not quite a few, but still have some of them left over in inventory. But this allows me to sort of expand that offering. I think, getting smarter with what I put online, a little more judicious with, in terms of like my original art to sell and things like that. I found a better sticker supplier. I mean, those are some of them that I sent to you this time too, that are just like, again, they're sort of hitting that nostalgia button,
I
like,
mean, that's how cool is that? I mean, that's a die cut, with a gloss finish. I mean, dude, it just pops. This is so cool. And I actually gave a couple of these stickers to the kid who I met at the toy store, and
oh, that's awesome.
and I showed the toy store owner, and I gave him a couple of the cooler ones, man. The one with
The back
the
on them. Yeah.
I didn't want to part with them, dude. I didn't, but I was like,
I'll send you,
what?
that's
He'll
no big deal. I'll flip some more out to you. Yeah,
no,
those are, first of all, thank you. But yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, stuff changes so rapidly. Like, when I first did my initial run of stickers, I went through it, and they're great. They've held up. I've stuck some. I hope there's no police officers in here too. All around boss on the back of signs and stuff like that. Some of them are still there. Like, they have not faded. They're still stuck to those. So
yeah,
like, I know their quality is phenomenal, but the fact that now another brand is offering more things that are different like that this other one doesn't, like, it's just allowing me to make more nimble decisions and things like that. So yeah, there's a ton of stuff that I want to do. I think the Patreon thing is something for sure. Like I said, it's half finished. It's just literally clicking some of those and sort of identifying what those buckets mean. But I think the big thing for me is like, I got to get back to the grind of doing it. That's step number one. And then in the next 5 to 10, I think it's, it's figuring out what works, right? And what people really want. And I think I've been shotgunning some stuff out there. Like, merch is cool. Do people really want merch, though? Back to some of the initial conversations that we're having. Or are they more interested in just content or things like this? Like, what if I run a podcast where, I have you on there too, or some of my other friends that are in the industry, and you give me a prompt and I'm doing a drawing as we talk about life, right?
yep.
Like, and it's just a different way to sort of look at content and do stuff like that. But maybe that's an option too, if people are interested in it. Or like you said, is it online classes? Is all these other things that, like, it's just identifying what that is and making those smart decisions. Yeah. I think there is something to be said about less on the impact of merch in the environment, just in general, and a physical a physical thing, which I think, again, I agree with you. People like stuff, right? I'm certainly another one of those people. I like things. But I think there's something to be said about that, you know, just thing that exists sort of out in the ether, learning, educating, advancing yourself, advancing your craft, helping others advance their craft, taking them along for the ride, and solidifying yourself as an expert in that space, which I think is really cool too.
Yeah.
So,
I think ultimately I'll end it with this is it just ends up being accountability, right? Like
yeah,
your ability to show up day in and day out and produce, that's, what people are going to follow. And so it's just getting on yourself, and it's
right.
hard. Like you said from the very beginning, I'd rather play this video game today, but at the end of the day, like, it's not going to help you with your cause. So, and trust me, I've had days where I'm just like, I can't do this today, or I don't want to make these t-shirts, right? But I'm like, I promised them that I would, so I got to do it. And so the ability to be accountable is, dude, that right there, and to hit the nail on the head when you said talent is literally like a very small part. It's true. I've dealt with multiple people that have had so much talent, and I'm like, they're unbelievable, but they just don't want to be accountable. And I'm not just pointing, saying that about, you or anybody else, but I'm just saying, like, that's for me. And I've realized this is you have to show up every day and you have to do it. And it's hard. It's a grind. And so to end, like, I mean, your work is incredible, and I've been loving the journey, and I hope that it just keeps getting better for you, man.
Thank you.
And it's been cool to just kind of share your story and kind of hear, your thoughts on different things. And yeah, man, I mean, I'm excited. I mean, this is so cool, dude. I don't think a lot of people realize like how excited I was to get this. And I mean, dude, I don't buy a lot. I try not to buy a lot of, I don't want to call it crap, but this right here for me, there's just a lot of nostalgia, a lot of, to be honest, man, I'm not a big Transformer guy or anything, but it's just the fact that I know you, we went to college together, your story, and just, it's your style, it's your thing, it's your baby. And for me to have a part of that, it's just so cool, dude. And so I'm here to kind of like continue to support you and push you and hopefully help you see what you got and get you to the next level.
Thanks,
So.
Matt. Appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, vice versa too. Like, let me know any way that I can obviously help you out too. And I've got some idea. I got some nieces, so I'll be contacting you soon about some.
I mean, whatever you want to do. I mean, it's not really about that for me. I think.
Hey, I mean,
doing this interview with me is just is good, is cool enough, man. Because I think doing this type of stuff is something that I want to do more in the future. So you're a willingness to do that, and I think not just for me, man, but for all of your people to like see your face, because you don't really necessarily post your face. They don't know who you are, and that's one thing I think that I always have tried to do is, I try to. It's not about me in a sense, but it kind of was from the beginning. But I try to show my face, and some people might, some of these kids are like, who the hell is this? Like, oh, it's an older guy. Like, but I feel like it's necessary people deserve to they deserve it to their people to like show who is the mastermind behind this, because a lot of these accounts on Instagram, you're like, who is this schmuck? Like, and it's probably some dude in a basement, like going, oh, I'm running this meme account and it's great. Right. So I like the fact that you can, do that and show people. And I think people appreciate it more in a sense, but that's coming from me. So.
Well, I appreciate that. But to be clear, I am still a schmuck in a basement running an account. So.
Well, I'm not, you know what I mean, though. It's just crazy. Some of these accounts, like on Instagram, you're like, who is this bum? Like, and some people, like, I work with this company or this guy out in California. He runs this big page called Youth Football, and he doesn't like to show his face. He's just very humble, and I'm like, dude, you should, post a picture of you here and there with the kids. Like, I think people appreciate it, but a lot of people are like, no, it's not about me. It's about them. For me, sometimes a little bit, man. I'll put it out there. I got a kind of big head. Like, sometimes it is a little bit about me. I want a little love too,
Right.
But at the end of the day, if I look back, I mean, where you take a passion and you turn it into a business, it becomes more than you. It becomes about your people and taking care of your people. And I think uh, you're right there. Like you're at a crossroads where like it's about you, but it's also about your people. So how can you like put more like on your shoulders? And I know it's tough to say I'm going to take responsibility now and take my people and put them on my back. And so I'm hoping maybe in the next 2-3 years that'll be you. So
Yeah, we'll figure it out, man. Like I said, this is a good push. This is a good fire up. This is again more of that affirmation and accountability, which that is
yeah.
put a
So
pin in this one. That's it.
I will let me see here. I know we've been live for a while now. I'm just gonna see like if I'm not actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm not even gonna look back. Um, if anyone has any questions right now for Dan or even myself, I'd more like it to be about Dan. But if anyone has any questions, I think we don't got too many people on. But does anyone have any? I'll open it up for questions at this point. I'll put it in here in the.
I mean, but like don't be strangers either. Like I know Paul and I run our accounts, but like if you think of anything, like I, you know, do a half decent job. I don't do a great job, but like I do try to get back to everyone who messages me. So if you have specific questions, things that you want to know a little bit more about, like, I'm here. So
Yeah.
don't feel like you can't reach out. I know a lot of accounts people don't get back to you, and I would say if I don't, it's not I'm snubbing you. It's more of a there's some stuff going on. Like I mentioned, it's a full-time role. There's family
Yeah.
stuff. We're heading into the holidays now. There's a lot. So but yeah, if you think of anything, like again, Bolinski Design is this. I know I'll be throwing this up on my IG page too. I know Paul will keep this on his at some point, and yeah, I mean it's a 2-hour documentary, but
hopefully I could save this. I don't know. We'll see.
I feel like it's saved somewhere on Instagram. If not, then all right.
We'll see. If not, it was fun while it lasted. I know one time I like went off and I like clicked the button. I'm like, oh, it's gone forever. But I mean, whatever, man. I mean, at the end of the day,
Right.
it's the experience, and hopefully we can do it more.
Yeah, man.
And I mean, these type of things, like it excites me too. I know when we were chatting, you're like, oh man, I'm psyched about doing this. It's just for me, looking back, it's just a new challenge each day. Like this is challenging me to do different things and pursue like the interview stage that the concept of me interviewing our friends and artists, because I know so many talented people out there, and maybe bringing this to RIT. If RIT you're watching, maybe you could pay me a little bit of money and start this up, and you probably would make like a lot of money.
Right.
It would probably help you. I don't know if you agree with my idea there about how colleges are just, I don't know, do you often get calls from RIT asking you for money, or you block them?
I've unsubscribed from some of that stuff too. It's just me as a person. I think I got fed up though with the same thing. Like I picked up the call one day and then I got harassed for years, and then finally you gotta take
I mean, I just feel like if you show people a little more love, I think you're gonna get a little more love. And
well, that's the thing, right? We paid a lot of money to go to a school for an education, and I get that. That's part of the ride. But like, yeah, you're asking for more still on top of the thousands and thousands of dollars that go on. And I went out of state too, so obviously there's a shitload of money, and I appreciate again, back to that support network, my mom helping me out through that whole thing. And but it's then on top of it, you want to ask for more. Like, come on. Especially like harassing the most were the years out where you and I just got out. At least that's where it was for me. And I'm like, are you out of your mind? Like, I'm paying you back now.
Seriously. I mean, I'll state this. I paid off my student loans a couple years ago, and you wouldn't think that's a life achievement now, but it is. Like, for 80 to 100K now, like, what are we doing? We could get in and talk a long time, but what are we doing here with, college America here? Like, it's a scam, but I don't want to get too into it. It's very interesting. But beyond that, man, I just want to say thank you very much for agreeing to do this.
Absolutely.
And I mean, it's been great to chat with you and just hear like a little bit about what you've been up to and your thoughts on just different things. One last question I'll ask you, and you can kind of do what you with it how you may. I've always been kind of curious on Reebok. Now, what's in your mind, and you could think about this so you don't have to like word it properly, or in your mind the state of the brand of Reebok and how like it's just been very interesting to see the brand go from up to down, changing its identity. Like, how do you feel the brand is right now in regards to, I mean, because right now, man, every time I ask any kid, they're like, I want Nike. Like it's always Nike, Nike, Nike. So what is your thoughts, I mean, on the state of Reebok? And I mean, you could put how you could put it how you may. I don't want you to, Reebok, if you're, watching this, I don't want you to like say you're fired because of this. So, I mean, what are your thoughts?
I have come, so the majority of my career I've been at Reebok, right? Like, and I think what I see it from the inside is the culture and the product and things are amazing. I think we've had challenges for different reasons, right? Being owned by Adidas. Now
Yep.
there is a shift in ownership that's happening. That's not new news, but ABG, which is the brand that is buying us, is, well, that'll close and take over. So
EBG, it's called EBG.
ABG,
ABG. What is
Authentic,
that?
Authentic Brands Group. So they're out of New
Okay.
York. So it's, there's new challenges and new opportunities that come with all of that. But I think that's exactly it though, right? Like it's repositioning who we are. We have an amazing creative director and he's brought a lot more energy back into the brand. And, there's a lot of good stuff. Again, it's a big brand. So there's a lot of complexities that happen with it. So I
Yeah.
don't think there is a one catch answer for everything, right? Like it's a big ship that moves together. And I
Yeah.
think it's carving out where your position is in the marketplace. And it's hard because people tend to compare a lot of like Nikes and a lot of these other brands, but Nike's got a lot of money, and they've got
Yeah.
their own economy with where they want to go and
Yeah.
spend. Reebok is owned by Adidas, and there is, and rightfully so, a process of ownership that goes up to the high ranks of Adidas. So
Yeah.
that's normal. That's
Yeah.
not a bad thing. It's just a thing. It's a life thing.
Yeah.
So I don't think I think it's brand equity and getting the brand out there. I don't think that's anything that's unknown to people. That, I think and working on the inside, the product is great. Anybody who gets their hands on that, like, I work with an amazingly talented product team. I do. And I mean that. And I'll say that to anybody. But I think it's just getting the product to market, in a way that people either see it as authentic or it speaks to them, or they're actually just able to get it, and that's due to a number of reasons. Like I said before, the ones with the shitload of money are able to play a little bit deeper in certain areas. So
So what's aspect of Reebok are you working on? Like, is there a department that you're working on?
yeah,
What is?
design director of all of men's apparel for the brand. So
Okay.
underneath me, that's, everything from your typical training sportswear to, the classics business in there too. And I'm certainly not designing all of it. I have an amazing team
Yeah.
that works with me. But yeah,
And
that's
what's the um I guess what's I guess I'm trying to think who's the demographic? What do you got at this point? Like, who are you like pushing out to? Like, what type, like, who are you trying to sell to? And like what kind of market is that at this
yeah,
point?
I mean, we're focused on training. That's really where it is. I mean, that's the sort of sweet spot for us. I just keep that one very simple. That's, if you're interested in training, not necessarily tied to sports, but for sports as well too. That's been our sweet spot to split and to sort of play
Mm-hmm.
in, and it's that, and then it's like the lifestyle component that comes along with that, which is embedded in every sport culture ever. I think
Yeah.
every one
And
of these brands packages that message up a little bit differently, but that is really what it is. It's like you're training to train, but then there is that lifestyle component where you look put together and
yeah.
good. You know, it could be that, you know, you want a nice pair of sweats to wear to, you know, the grocery store after that, that makes you look
Yeah.
a little put together. Or, you know, it could be that true pinnacle training product that you want to get into. Like if you're cycling a barbell or doing something, you want shorts that hold up to that, and you
Yeah.
want to look good. I mean, that is the underpinning, and you want to be best in
Yeah.
class, have that messaging, which I agree. The product it's really amazing. And that's due to the amazing team that we have. So yeah, I mean, I think it's brand equity. It's getting out
Yeah.
there.
It's interesting though. I think with the pandemic, we've become more a sweatpant culture, right? Like, so literally, I'm wearing sweaties right now, and so like, you know, and who doesn't like want to wear sweatpants all day? So it's kind of like, I guess, integrating the sport and lifestyle in a sense. And I think it's always been. I remember when I interned at Reebok, we did like a cool internship project over at the footwear side. So it was cool to be able to work with some interns and Spencer Wyatt. Do you remember him?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, but yeah, it's just interesting to hear. And I mean, obviously, you're coming from a huge corporation, so it's just, I'm sure it's, you know, the mindset and the world is just way different. So, it's cool, man. I mean, these are the type of things that I think about, and I'm, you know, always wondering. I'm sure a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
are. So, once again, appreciate it, and hopefully we can save this. I don't know,
Find
depending on
out.
how long it was, but yeah,
Well,
man, I'll continue to stay in touch with you, and I look forward to seeing what you continue to put out. And I'm a big supporter and fan of you, man. So if you get that Patreon up and going, you know, I'll probably be a supporter of that. So
yeah, thank you. And I mean, right back at you. Thank you for doing this. This is cool. Like outside of just, you know, talking shop, it's good to catch up. It's been far too long. So,
yeah. All right, man. Well, let's see if I can go off this live and see what happens.
all
If I
right,
can
dude.
save it. But yeah, dude. Hey, have a nice holiday and enjoy it, and you know, take a little time off and have fun with your family and friends, and then get right back into it, man.
Thank you. Same for you.
All right, dude. Well,
Later.
yep. All right. We'll see you.
Bye.